Hi, this is Monica Packer, and you're listening to About Progress, where we are about progress made practical. If you go into my parents' basement, they have one full room devoted to food storage. There are literal aisles of boxes holding long-term food like rice, beans, flour, and so much more. The kind of food that lasts for 30 years. Those aisles have been there for as long as I can remember. I used to joke that if there were ever a neighborhood emergency, our family alone could help feed the whole lot. My parents took emergency preparedness very seriously, and it wasn't just about the food. Because of that, as an adult, I have long felt anxious about my perceived lack of preparedness. Sure, we have always had some long-term food storage and some water and even fire extinguishers, but without tanks worth of everything. I have long worried that we are so vastly underprepared that I've done the thing we often do as humans when we're overwhelmed. Nothing. This is why I finally asked my friend Melanie Papworth to come on the podcast. With the increase of natural disasters, I'm sure I'm not the only one who wants to finally face their fears and take on emergency preparedness, but in a way that feels more practical and doable. In our conversation, you will hear Melanie give you the basic categories of preparation that everyone should have on their list, regardless of where you live. In addition to the basic first step each area requires for us to feel more ready should that disaster arise. While I personally learned a great deal, I also left the conversation feeling more hopeful and also more validated in what I already have done to this point. It turns out you don't need to have a bunker level of preparation in order to be making progress in this area. Melanie takes the emergency out of preparedness. Melanie Papworth is a mom of 4 and stepmom of 3 running on Diet Pepper, Zero, Clorox wipes, and to-do lists. She helps busy families personalize their preparedness in practical ways through her Instagram account and website, Plan for Awesome. She covers topics in an organized, step-by-step format, laying out the pros and cons as she goes. Melanie is a little obsessed with making helpful printables for the different topics she covers, so you can expect plenty of those along your own preparedness journey with her. That interview is coming up after a quick break for our sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Air Doctor. Americans spend an average of 90% of their time indoors, but did you know that the indoor air we breathe can be up to 100 times more polluted than outdoor air? I think a lot of you are coming around to that fact because I've gotten more and more messages asking what air purifier I have and if I'd recommend it, and the answer is Air Doctor, and yes, I 100% would recommend it. You can breathe easy with Air Doctor, the award-winning air purifier that eliminates 99.99% of dangerous contaminants like allergens, viruses, smoke, gases, mold spores, and more. One of my sons was recently diagnosed with more indoor allergies, and the doctor was relieved to hear we already have an air purifier. You can top that off with lots of smog days in our beautiful Salt Lake Valley, and I can tell you that the relief I have is high, both emotionally and physically, that Air Doctor is in my home. Air Doctor was voted Best Air Purifier by Newsweek, so it's no surprise that 98% of Air Doctor customers agree. Their home's air feels cleaner, safer, and healthier, and the Packer family is one of those happy customers. Unlike other purifiers, Air Doctor captures invisible particles 100 times smaller than standard HEPA filters. Head to airdoctorpro.com and use promo code MONICA to get up to $300 off today. Air Doctor comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus a 3-year warranty and $84 value free. Get this exclusive podcast-only offer now at airdoctorpro.com. That's airdoctorpro.com using promo code MONICA. One of the long-standing things that has connected us as a community is the Do Something list. The first one I ever made way back in 2016 totally changed my life and actually led to this podcast. And I have heard from hundreds of women over the years from the About Progress community that the Do Something list has changed their lives too. What is it? Well, it's a way for you to prioritize your own fulfillment, to explore who you are, and all outside the pressures of goals and resolutions. If you're ready to have more hobbies, to have more creativity, to have more fun, or rest, or connection this year, whatever it is, make sure you make your own do something list. To help you, I have a free training that is ready for you online right now. Go to aboutprogress.com/DSL, and you can sign up for my free training, which includes a video and audio workshop, resources, including a guide and examples of so many DSLs from real women of this community. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/DSL to get your free training. Melanie Papworth, welcome to About Progress.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's about time we had you. And I have to admit, even though you've been on my list for literal years, I have self-sabotaged this conversation by not inviting you because I am full of guilt over my lack of emergency preparedness. Although, I mean, I do have some basics, but in many ways, definitely not. Feeling very unprepared for what could go wrong in our household. But this is why I've asked you to come, because you not only know what we need in order to be prepared, you teach it in a way where it feels more doable and like something I can conquer. So, with that, thank you for being here.
Of course, it's my favorite. I love it.
Well, I wanted
I
to
kind of
start
love
with
hearing that.
why. Well, oh, I love that. But I wanted to start with why is it your favorite kind of topic? Like, what got you into emergency preparedness?
I think it's just kind of who I am, like how I was born. I don't remember necessarily caring about like food storage as a young child or anything, but I'm like a total planner. And I think of, I don't want to say like the worst case scenario, but I definitely overthink things and prepare for kind of the worst case scenario, not super doomsday, but like, okay, what if we're stuck in traffic or what if we're this or what if we're that? That's just how my brain works. I think it was kind of like when I went to college because I do
Hmm.
remember having cans of food and like a flat of water and stuff under my bed. And it wasn't necessarily because I thought, oh, what if some major thing happens, right? It started just of like, well, what if I'm low on money or my tutoring student cancels or I
Yeah.
get sick and I can't work or something like that? Like I want to have food. It was gradual. It was more like that. And then when I became a mom, I think that's when it really hit me. Like, oh my gosh, if something were to happen, I am in charge of these little people. They have nobody. They have me. That's who they have.
Yeah.
The buck stops here. Like, what would I do? And so it was kind of like not like a scary feeling, but just like I've got to figure this out, you know? And so it was more just self-taught and self-driven. And I definitely remember starting like with food in our small apartment and,
Mm.
getting like some shelves to put some stuff on. So it just kind of built from there. It was very gradual. My parents weren't super into it or anything. We had a little bit of stuff, but not much. It's just kind of my planning, I think.
Yeah. In some ways, it's nice to hear that it wasn't like a big thing that happened that really scared you. But at the same time, I think, well, I feel like I also like to be prepared, but I don't like to think about emergencies. That makes me feel anxious. And maybe that's one of the reasons I avoid it. But this is making me wonder what it is about emergency preparedness that may scare people off. Like, what are their misconceptions? What are their fears? Why do they resist it, avoid it, put it off? I'm sure you have some insight on that.
Yeah, I think one big reason is the one you mentioned, anxiety.
Hmm.
There's different people, obviously, different personalities, different levels of anxiety. For me, the more prepared I am, the less anxiety I have. And so it's really hard for me to get into somebody's head to
Yeah.
think I'm going to avoid it because I'm an anxious person and I can't think about that because to me, that very avoidance make me anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, maybe you could speak to
Hmm.
that because for me it's like, well, then get prepared. There's nothing that's going to cure your anxiety more than knowing that you've prepared, that you've done what you can at to the level that you're comfortable with. So I mean that comes with a caveat too, because even me, who I don't live and breathe it, but I definitely am, like I said, it's very natural for my brain to think through scenarios. I really enjoy it. I've been doing it for years. with that mindset. But even me, I just think, oh, well, if X or Y or Z happened, we'd be in big trouble. We're not prepared for that, And so even someone like me who has quite a bit of stuff, has been doing it for a long time, I have my limits. And we're not doomsday preppers. We don't have a big enough house. We live in California. We don't even have like a yard for a garden.
Mm.
Like I don't even garden. I don't have chickens. I don't, and so someone might look at me and think that I must have all of those things. And I don't, because those are limits that either I have chosen to live with or we've put on ourselves for whatever reason. But I do feel good about what I have thought through and what priorities I have set for myself and the areas that I have chosen to prepare for and in,
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
so you cannot prepare for everything. You just can't. And so maybe knowing that and starting with like your most likely scenarios or emergency type situations and having peace with that, go to
Mm-hmm.
bed tonight knowing that, hey, I thought about this and I have a plan. I have my next step, which, okay, I totally didn't mean to bring this in. It's either been 2 or 3 years, but I am obsessed with the podcast episode that you did with Rachel Nielsen on her show about the next step and procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
And I post about it every year because
Ah,
I love that episode. And I think that it really relates to emergency preparedness.
yeah.
You think that you need to have it all and you start looking at all of these topics and all of these different scenarios that could play out. And it's just like you give up before you start.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way we're going to get there. We don't have the money. We don't have the space. I don't have the time. You name it. Like there's a million excuses, right? And so people don't do anything. And it's like, no, pick the one topic that you want to focus on and then find the first step. And that's it. And anyone can do that regardless of your anxiety level or your financial situation or anything.
And it's
Yeah.
funny. I mean, I think there's just different areas in our lives where like the anxiety pushes us to act and other times where it pushes us to avoid. And, paying attention
Mm,
to why we may avoid it could be helpful in making progress in this area. But I also see, these other mis- misconceptions from what you just shared that emergency preparedness is all consuming, meaning
mhm,
like I have to be prepared for every single scenario on every single level. Another misconception from what I just heard you say is it requires lots of money and lots of time, and that they have to be prepared for everything. And like you said, the impossibility of that is actually one of the reasons I think people stop before they start is because they're like, I can't be prepared for
mhm.
everything. But I love your advice here. And that actually is leading us to talk more about how do they actually start? Because, earlier you said when you were considering your kids and you had your first daughter and you thought, what would I do? What would I do if this thing happened or that thing happened? When I get that question, the overwhelm also kicks in on like where do I
Mhm.
start? Because like any one of those things could happen at any time. And I don't know what I would do and I don't know where to find that. And I don't know where the basics are to start. So you walk people through this all the time. You said pick a topic that's important to you, but like what if they all like I'm like fire?
Yeah.
Fire, yes. Like smoke, yes. Car, like they all seem important. So where would you tell people
Yeah.
to start in terms of here are the 3 to 5 basics that you need to consider in terms of emergencies that I would recommend everyone worry about.
Okay. Real quick, I just want to insert something that came to mind when you were talking there.
Yeah.
Um, when you said, all of them seem important because of that first child and what would I do and I can't possibly. Keep in mind that rarely do people die due to being unprepared for something. They get out of the burning house. They evacuate. They get food from the Red Cross or whoever comes in. I think that a big thing with preparedness is you are making it more comfortable. for your family in most of these scenarios. Like, we are talking really
Okay.
extreme if you haven't done anything to prepare for something that will take you to death. So keep that in mind also, that when you're looking at all of the different topics, most of them are not life or death,
Hmm.
or it's very small steps that will get
Okay.
you to where, like, we wouldn't die. We might not have all of our journals and our photos backed up digitally, but we would get out of the house because we have smoke alarms. Do you see what I mean? So evacuation or a house fire, just taking that as an example, yes, you can absolutely die. But the number one thing and the number two thing and the number three thing is have smoke alarms that work and test those
Huh.
regularly. Right. And everything else is not life or death. It's convenience, it's memories, it's sentimental, it's hard, it's all those things, but your family will make it out alive if you have working smoke alarms. And so I just want to, like, throw that out there, that you don't need to be so overwhelmed and feel like it's all urgent, because
Yeah.
it's not all urgent. But there are a few things, especially like in each category, I think most of them have a few quick wins
Yeah.
that could mean the difference between life or death, or severe versus, being uncomfortable.
Okay.
So that's something to think about too. You don't need to go from 0 to 100 before you can, like, check off a topic either. So,
So we don't all
having
have
said
to
that,
be prepared for food for years and years and water for years and
right,
years and like
right.
shelter
You
and
start with
all
3
that stuff.
days and then you bump it up to a week and then 2 weeks. So, yes, I love, like, that's another perfect example. Like, yes, keep your family alive for 3 days and then move to the week mark and build up from there. But most emergency situations, you're gonna have relief from somewhere or be able to get yourself to another location where you would be able to find relief. And so those first few days are what you need to focus on.
Okay. I'm writing that down first
Yeah.
because I think of like the big like I have to feed my family for months on end. And
Mhm.
and that made me forget that it's actually more about preparing for an interim. Like an
Mhm.
interim between like an event and getting more relief or help. So thinking of that as a place to start is really, really helpful. So yeah,
Good.
continue. That's
Okay.
definitely a big one right there.
Yeah. Okay, so the topics that I
Mhm.
would recommend everyone start with, it doesn't matter where you live or what your climate is or what natural disasters are. A lot of these things overlap, like whether you're in hurricane country or wildfire country or whatever,
Yeah.
evacuation is an issue, right? For tons
Okay.
of different scenarios. So evacuation would be one topic.
Okay.
Another one would be house fires.
Mhm.
Those are more common than you think, unfortunately, and it can happen to anybody. It's one of those things that you see on the news and you think, "Oh, bummer for them," but it happens more frequently than we realize. So house fires, um, food storage,
Mhm.
unfortunately, that is a really overwhelming topic. Water.
Okay.
Water is severely overlooked because you can live without food, you cannot live without water. So depending on the situation, that's your number one. Your food storage isn't going to do you good if you don't have drinkable
Yeah.
water.
Okay.
So I would say water. The fifth I would say is power outages, just because those aren't as scary, I don't
Mhm.
think, as the other ones. Because again, they don't feel life or death unless you have, like, medication that requires refrigeration or something like that. That's like life saving medicine, for instance. Like, I realize
Okay.
that a power outage might feel, you know,
Life and death
more
for
important.
those
Yes.
people, yeah.
But for most people, it's a comfort thing. But again, it ties into a lot of other emergencies.
Got it.
Power outages happen in hurricanes and storms and in wildfires and all that stuff. So,
Okay.
so yeah, those are the 5 areas that I think every family could have at least a little basic amount of preparation for.
Okay. And actually that's what I would love to do next is to go into those 5 areas, and if you can tell us like, "Hey, here is either the first major thing you need in that area or even the first small thing," because it doesn't have to be the
Yeah.
major thing.
Yeah.
Um, or even if there's just like a couple. Because I know each
Okay.
one of these we could probably take an hour,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Or
Okay.
hours.
But we're talking
Yeah.
to the people who are scared to prepare.
Yep.
So let's
Got
give
it.
them, yeah, the basics
Okay.
there. So let's start with evacuation preparation. What do they need to have on hand?
make a grab list. It is free. It's free. It takes up one piece of paper, so it doesn't take up space in your home.
Yeah.
So there's the two biggest things right there: money and
Okay.
space. And the third most, I don't want to say excuse not to do emergency preparedness, but roadblock is
Got it.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And this can take you under a half an hour, and it's free and it doesn't take up space. So get a grab list together. And what I mean by that is, if you had 10 minutes, if you had 30 minutes, what
Okay.
would you grab? And think through that when you are not in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain goes into crisis mode, and some people thrive there. I'm not going to say that everyone freaks out. Some people really thrive, but the majority of people, they don't know where their brain goes, but it is not in their head.
Mm-hmm.
They freak out and they literally can't think. And it's like you're frozen,
Mm-hmm.
just standing there like, what do I do? What do I grab? I don't know. I'm going to grab my pillow. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't think. So think through it when you're calm.
Okay.
And in fact, I can have you link a brainstorm sheet that I have
Love that.
to kind of go through your home room by room. Like physically, you go in and you look at stuff and you think, what is irreplaceable in this room? What would I really want to grab? Or is there a family heirloom in here? Or would I want to grab my computer hard drive or this journal or that photo album or whatever? And also, I really recommend doing this with your family. This is a way to introduce the topic to your kid. You know the level of understanding, the anxiety levels of your children. And some might be able to handle a lot more than others. Maybe you just say, what's your most important thing? Like if you had to pick one thing and you don't even tell them what it's for. Where
Yeah.
others, you might say, hey, if you had 5 minutes, what would you be really sad if we had forgotten to grab if our house burned down? You know, I mean, there's all levels that you could do, but your kids might come up with things that you really hadn't thought of,
Mm.
and it's like, yeah, we can put that on the list. Let's do this. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
But making a grab list and just having a plan is easy and free. So I
Okay.
would recommend that for evacuation.
And with evacuation, I'm sure a grab list is important, which I'd never even thought of. Isn't that so funny? I always thought of just about like a grab bag, which I think
72-hour
also
kids. Yeah.
relates to the other things too. So maybe that
hmm
comes up with the others.
Well, I definitely recommend 72-hour kits, but that is not quick and easy. And it's
Yeah.
not a first step.
Okay.
It's a big project. So if you're really going to do them,
And a
and so
72-hour
that's why I
kit.
didn't say it.
I appreciate that.
'Cause
Yeah. But can you tell people what
yeah.
a 72-hour kit is for those who aren't familiar with that?
Yeah. So the difference, I guess, between a grab list and a 72-hour kit, they're both
Mm-hmm.
for evacuation,
Mm-hmm.
but the 72-hour kit covers things that you can duplicate. That is reasonable to duplicate financially and space wise and to have pre-packed at all times. So the idea is, if you've got 10 minutes to evacuate, if you don't have a 72-hour kit or a go bag or a grab bag or bug out bag, those are all the same thing, ready to go, you're going to spend your 10 minutes gathering clothes and toothbrushes and deodorant and medications and a first aid kit, and all those little things, and gathering food, random food from your pantry,
Yeah.
right? And you're going to leave the computer hard drive
Mm.
and the heirlooms that can't be replaced and the journals. And so the idea is, if you can pack all of that stuff ready to go, then you can throw that bag in the car, and then you still have 9 minutes, or whatever the situation is, to grab all the other stuff that you would get to the evacuation center or to grandma's house or wherever you went, and think, man, I wish we would have grabbed that and that and that. But you just
Got
didn't have
it.
the time or the brain space. So the 72-hour kit kind of covers, and yes, you're right, like it covers water and food. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, it kind of dives into these other areas
Mm-hmm.
as well. But it can be a lot depending on how comprehensive you go with those. I have a whole course on those. Like
Wow.
it can get
Yeah.
pretty extensive.
Okay.
Especially, if you have several kids, it can be expensive, time consuming, they take up space. So that's not our first step in my mind. I would go to the grab list, get something on paper, and be able to sleep better at night,
Okay.
and tackle the 72-hour kits later.
This podcast is sponsored by Go Pure Beauty. You may already know this about me, but I love skincare. I have been so hyper diligent about taking care of my face since my early 20s, thanks to a great dermatologist I happened to visit at the time. But guess what I forgot about for most of those years? My neck. Did you forget too? The skin on your neck is thinner, more delicate, and less oily than facial skin, so it requires special care. That's why Go Pure Beauty developed their revolutionary Tighten and Lift Neck Cream. Powered by clinically proven active ingredients, this advanced formula is designed to visibly firm, smooth, and rejuvenate the delicate skin on your neck and chest in as little as 4 to 8 weeks. I've been using the Tighten and Lift Neck Cream, and I've been loving it. The silky texture is so nice. My very sensitive skin has responded to it very well, and that's thanks to it being paraben and sulfate-free and made without harsh chemicals. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. And Go Pure isn't just about your neck. They have a full line of science-backed skin and body care to brighten, hydrate, and restore your glow from head to toe. From powerful vitamin C serums to deeply hydrating retinol moisturizers, every product is packed with clean, effective ingredients that deliver real results. With over 1 million jars sold, this beauty secret is no longer a secret. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off Go Pure with code PROGRESS at checkout. Just head to gopurebeauty.com/progress, use code PROGRESS, and you're all set. And after you buy, do us a favor. When they ask where you heard about Go Pure, tell them it was from our show. For years, I have been teaching women how to do habits differently. I've been so grateful to see the concepts that have changed the most for you, with responses from women in our community like, "You're changing the habit game for all of us, and this is so needed, and you should write a book on this." Well, guess what? I am. And I'm already so eager for you to get your hands on it, hopefully early 2026. And since I can't share the title yet, and since I'm very likely to self-publish, I need a committee of gal pals, if you will, like you, who are ready to be my early test readers, to pre-order the book, and to act as grassroots publicists the moment each of those steps are made ready. Would you like to be on that book launch committee? Get on the list by going to aboutprogress.com/book committee. Even if you just want to be first in the know with any book news, that's where you sign up. Again, go to aboutprogress.com/book committee. It's in the show notes for you. I can't wait to share as much as I can with you along the way, and I'm already so grateful for your support. So I'm just differentiating between the two. The grab list is more about irreplaceable items, and the
Mhm.
72-hour kit is more replaceable items. It still matter, but that you could
Yes,
likely
for
find
comfort and
from
yeah.
relief.
Mhm.
But yeah, still good and necessary to have. Okay. But
Yeah.
I like that you're starting with like, here's the most basic, here's the first
It's
step.
the
So
simple thing, and it's super important. And on a grab list, I will also say it may not be expensive or irreplaceable necessarily, but like prescription medications. I
mhm.
don't keep those in my
Okay.
72-hour kit because I can't get extras of those really.
Yeah.
So your grab list does cover basically anything that isn't feasible to keep in a 72-hour kit. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, you know? So I just
Okay.
wanted to make that distinction. But you get into that when you're building your kits too. So
Okay. Thank you for the evacuation preparation basic. What about house fires?
smoke alarms, smoke alarms, smoke alarms.
Okay.
I I did a 3-hour interview with a firefighter,
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest takeaway, I don't know how many times he said it, but he said, if you have smoke alarms, you're not going to need all this other stuff because you'll be out of the house, you know? I mean, he was like, go ahead and get a fire ladder. But he said, if you have working smoke alarms, you should never find yourself in a position where you would need a fire ladder.
Got
That
it.
type of stuff, you know? He said
Uh-huh.
that most houses have them, but the people who are caught in a house fire are the ones whose smoke alarms didn't go off.
Mm.
So I said, what are the top three things? And that's what he said. Smoke alarms, smoke alarms, smoke alarms. I'm not even going to give
Okay.
you anything else to consider because he said that
Wow.
is your number one, two, and three. So
Wow.
check your smoke alarms. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't know this, but they should be replaced every 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're still working. But yeah, smoke alarms for
Okay.
sure. And if you want like extra credit, fire extinguisher and keep it in
Yeah.
your kitchen.
All right. I feel like if anyone else is like me, the scared to prepared and are already feeling like, okay, I can do this now, or like, or maybe I'm doing better than I thought. Like, this is good.
Mhm.
What about food storage? That's
Good.
the
Good,
biggie.
good.
I know, like, you probably have if you have a course on the 72-hour kits, and you definitely have a course on food storage.
I do. I do.
Yeah.
It's 52 weeks of growing your food storage.
Mm,
And the reason I'm telling you that is all it is adding a couple things to your pantry every week for a full year.
yeah.
This is not something that you have to have $10,000 to go buy fancy cans of freeze dried food. You just don't, especially if you don't have very much short term food storage. So these terms are kind of broad, short term versus long term. I consider short term storage something that I can buy from the store, put it on my shelf, and I don't have to do anything to it. I'm not buying it from a freeze dried company. I'm buying it at Winco or Target or wherever you get your groceries, and I'm putting it on my pantry shelf. That is short term food storage to me, or anything in my fridge,
Okay.
and even up to my freezer.
And
Some
need to be
things,
used within
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
within a
shortish period of
short-ish
time.
time,
Okay.
yes, whether it's 2 weeks to 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
and so if you don't have a lot of that, if
Okay.
you don't have a lot of the basics that you are using on a very regular basis, just making your normal dinners and meals for your family, then that's where you start. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be hard. Throw a couple extra in your cart every week. And I have 52 weeks of different items to think about, and there's usually a couple a week. And so, but all I'm saying is, I'm not like trying to pitch that. I'm just saying you can do that without a course. You can
Got
do
it.
that without somebody. And really, you want to beef up the things that you use on a regular basis first,
Okay.
um, before before worrying about the bigger, more overwhelming things. Now, having
Got it.
said that, I do recommend,
Hmm.
if you have the budget for it, to start with your long-term storage and build that up slowly as well with your short term. But if you only have 20 bucks a month in your budget, then yeah, just spend 20 extra bucks at the grocery store once a month, on
Yeah.
stuff that you use a lot of. So
Okay.
that's
And with
it.
long term, we're looking at like freeze dried stuff. We're looking at
hmm
things that have a shelf life of like 30 years, that kind of thing. Or is that
Yeah, I'd say like 5 to 30 years. Some
okay?
of them, depending on like the oils in the food and things, they really don't last longer than 5-ish years.
Got
But
it.
most stuff has like a 20 to 30 year shelf life. But
Okay.
you pay for that. You pay for the
Yes.
process, right?
Yeah.
So it's not as affordable. And so get what you can. That's kind of the idea of the short term food storage. It's going to be more affordable if you're buying it how it comes from the store. If you're buying it preserved further than that, you're paying more money for it. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
like that you're still, just start small and gradually build even there when and how you can afford it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so water you said comes first even before food. So
Yeah.
what are we looking at there? I'm just thinking
And
my
then,
parents' storage room filled like top to bottom with, the soda liter bottles filled with water and like a tiny bit of bleach. That's how we did it in the 80s and
okay.
90s
Okay.
and
Yeah.
2000.
I mean,
I
that
don't.
works. I know. Actually, I do that. I use that trick as a way to get free toilet flushing water.
Oh, smart.
Um,
Yeah.
because like
You just
if your
yeah.
water were busted or if it were frozen, like a lot of people couldn't. My dad couldn't flush his toilets. He was in Houston during the whole Arctic
Oh,
mass thing,
yeah.
and he was like, our pipes are frozen,
Oh,
so no water is moving. And so he's like, we can't even flush our toilets. We're using our bottled water to flush our toilets. So I mean, just
mm,
so I
okay.
fill up 2-liter bottles and just stick them under our
Yeah.
bathroom counters.
Uh-huh.
And I don't do the bleach thing. Who
Yeah.
cares? You're flushing your
It's just
toilet with
toilet.
it.
Yeah.
It's just toilet water, literally. So that's what I use 2-liter bottles for.
Okay.
But I would recommend go grab a case of water this week and find a place for it.
Okay.
Hopefully inside your home, unless you have a temperature controlled garage. You don't really want it out there if you can help it. I know that's hard, but start with a flat of water.
Okay.
And that will last you a couple days, depending on, or even more,
Sure.
depending on how many people are in your home. Start there. Don't get overwhelmed with the 55-gallon drums or the water tanks. Do I have a water tank? Yep. I have a 500-gallon water tank in my garage. But do you know how many years it took us to save and to feel like we were at a place in life where we weren't going to be moving within 4 months and we weren't in an apartment and and so we did the water bottle thing until we could go bigger.
Okay.
And so again, start with a flat of water. Even if you have a water tank and you don't have any bottles of water, you should go get a flat of water tomorrow,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
because you can't take a 500-gallon water tank with you if you're evacuating. That will do us
Mm,
no good. So, depending on the emergency,
yeah.
you really need both. You need portable water and you need a lot of a water supply at your home if you're staying in. So, just cover your bases, but start with the easiest one. Get your water bottles because you could drink those whether you're home or you're evacuating, and it's easy.
Love that advice. Okay. Power outages.
No, for power outages, I guess we always go to light sources because most power outages, at least that I experienced as a kid, it was fun. It was like we didn't have lights for a couple of hours, and then it was back on and it was fine. You could even start with just like making sure everybody has a flashlight in their bedroom and they know where it
Okay.
is in case it happens, especially if you have young children or even if you're living alone. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to have to walk all the way across my house, when I'm totally disoriented or whatever without light. So you could start with light sources. Another cool thing that's really inexpensive, actually, would be a refrigerator and freezer thermometer. They
Oh,
can get pricier depending on the model and all the fancy bells and whistles that you want. I will say, like, the cheapest ones are just going to be I don't even know what they're like, the mercury. Is that what makes them go? I
probably. I don't
don't even know.
know. That's like,
But
are you
like,
smarter than a fifth grader? I do not know.
I don't know. But like the old school thermometers.
Yeah.
The problem is you have to open your fridge or open your freezer to see that.
Yeah.
So if you can go to the next level of the kind that have a sensor in your refrigerator, you can read it outside on like a little panel or whatever. That's the kind that we have. So you don't have to open your refrigerator, but you know what temperature your food is at and for how long. You can be watching your food.
Got
And
it.
they go all the way on up to like you can get a text message if you're out of state, which is awesome.
Mm,
In fact, we could have used that because we came home from just a weekend trip and learned that just our neighborhood had lost power all weekend. It had been for 2 days.
oh my
We lost
goodness.
all of our food. It was hundreds of
Wow.
dollars of
Oh, yeah.
food.
Uh-huh.
And had I had that little text alert, I could have sent my friend over to start up our generator real quick. Like, we have a
Yeah.
generator. We could have saved that. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, there are different levels and there's definitely a reason to get better ones, but just knowing what the temperature is in your refrigerator could really be helpful when determining if your food is safe or not after a power outage. So
Mhm.
that's something I had never considered. And I don't think my parents had, like that's something that I kind of just learned along the way. That's a pretty quick, easy fix to that problem.
Yeah. Things I definitely never thought of, for sure. I have learned so much already in just covering these basics, but I'm feeling better. And I think people who are listening should too, in terms of like, oh, maybe I do have more things than I thought, but also whatever I don't, now I know where to
Yeah.
start. And that alone feels like
Yeah.
a better feeling than thinking I need to have years and years of food and water and know how to like kill and gut chickens. And
Oh
I mean, these are the
gosh,
things
no.
I think about. I'm like, how to, like, I don't know how to do that. But no, we can just start with this. I was curious if there are some stories from you or from your community, because I know you've taught this for so many years and you have a great membership and courses where you've helped so many households figure this out. So I was curious if there are any stories that have come from people who are like, thanks to this, we avoided that, or we were able to make it through this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. You know what's
Like
funny?
countless.
Honestly, I think the one thing, and it's funny because I haven't even mentioned it, it's kind of like it doesn't belong to any category.
Yeah.
So I have a quick and easy preparedness challenge,
Uh huh.
basically, and it's 20 days. So it's for a month, but you do I give you weekends off, right? So
Oh,
it's only
nice.
20 things because
Yeah.
it's Monday through Friday. That's how I designed it anyway. People can do it any way they want.
Brilliant.
And the first day, right out of the gate, it's horrible. Everyone hates it. I can't believe more people don't quit because and I did that because I'm the type of person that wants to get the worst over with at the
Yeah.
beginning, you know?
Yeah.
So the first day, I make them go find their water shut off and their gas shut off.
Yeah.
And already, like, that's the worst in my book. Like, I have to go outside and I have to find like utilities.
Yeah.
No thanks. You would be amazed at
Mm.
how many people
Mhm.
have messaged me and said, I am so glad I knew where they were. I'm so glad you had me get a tool. I'm so glad you had me check to see that it fit because this happened or that happened or we had to
Yeah.
do this real quick or this busted. That's my number one.
Hmm.
And that was not from this earth shattering,
Yep.
literally like disaster, like natural disaster. It's just like little flukes that happen to just their house, or yeah, the Texas freezes that have happened
Yeah.
and things like that. And oh, at least we prevented this from happening, or
Mhm.
we knew how to take care of it. In fact, I have a quick story. We had just moved into this house and poured cement on the side of our house, kind of like RV parking. And so my husband, he had to move our gate. Anyway, I wasn't self aware enough to know that our gas meter was somewhere now where I was backing into because I always back in when
Mm.
I park.
Yeah.
And normally you would park like in front of the garage door, but I was going further back now and I totally hit our gas meter
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's like on the side of our house. We live in California. So I know some people's are like in their basement or whatever. Ours is outside. And and it like knocked the whole meter off of the wall and we just had gas pouring out of our house. Like it
Oh,
was the loudest
scary.
hiss you've ever heard. Like I had to yell. Luckily my husband was home because I had a car full of kids. And so I
Yeah.
just got right back in the car and I drove them down the street.
Mhm.
But we had a shut off tool. We knew where it was. And my husband turned off the gas and it was no big deal. But if we didn't have a way to turn that off, and if we had to go scrambling looking for us, I mean, most people don't even have a tool, number one. So then they'd have to be running and find like anything that they could use, some sort of pliers. That could have ended really horribly. That's
That's a
my
biggie.
like personal story of
Yeah.
this didn't need an earthquake or a hurricane
Mhm.
or anything huge like that. It was my stupidity. This was a self-inflicted emergency.
Sounds like an
But
accident.
but but having that, like, it was simple. It's
Yeah.
a $20 tool, and it takes 5 minutes to go figure it out, and it could literally save your life, right?
Yeah.
If you happen to run into your gas meter and blow it right off the side of your house. So, you know, there's
Now we're
that.
all gonna be, like, checking where our gas meters are in correlation to where we park, but yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No, this is so important. Okay, I love hearing that story, not that it happened, but just how, like, having that simple knowledge helped
Yeah.
in such a big way.
No.
Any others that you can think of that may be
Oh gosh.
interesting for them? And I'd say more motivating for them.
I mean, I have had a couple of people who have had to evacuate,
Mhm.
um, but they didn't lose their home. So it's not like as, but they were ready to leave and they left. I mean, it was pretty, I don't want to say uneventful because I'm sure it was very eventful for them,
Of
to
course.
leave, but they were, in this situation where they were able to go back, the
Yeah.
same day kind of a thing. It
They,
was,
like, didn't grab a
um,
pillow instead of a dog or something like that.
right. Right. They knew what to do. They had a
Mhm.
plan. So yeah,
Mm.
I mean, just being ready. I think the biggest thing is I say this also a lot. Like, this is not just for large scale catastrophes. This is for I'm in the middle of making dinner and I thought I had checked my pantry, but I hadn't, and I
Yeah.
ran out of something and I can run to my back stock and grab it. It's things like that that happen on a weekly basis to me.
Mhm.
And now I've come to kind of, for better or worse, like depend on that.
Mhm.
I don't have to go grocery shopping as often because I know that I'm covered and I can replace what I steal, quote unquote, steal from my back stock the next time I go. And it's just kind of preparedness in general. In fact,
Mhm.
sometimes I recommend take the emergency out of it. Just be
Okay.
prepared. Just
Yeah.
start thinking
Hmm.
preparedness minded, Gosh, if I end up getting stuck out there, if this doctor's appointment goes longer, and we have to go straight to baseball, maybe I should throw the bag in the car with a few snacks. That is saving yourself from a big headache that day, and just kind of starting to think a few steps ahead will kind of change your perspective on everything. And I think that it makes then preparing for like the next level of an emergency preparedness thing a little bit more natural and a little bit more like doable for
Hmm.
people. So,
That does shift. That
yeah.
does shift things.
Mhm.
Preparedness. That's it. That's just what we're going for. And,
Yeah.
hopefully we don't have to worry about the big things, but if and when they happen, we can also be prepared for those things too. So this has
Yeah.
been both illuminating and motivating. I would like to hear more about where they should go if they're like, I want my hand held and I want to be told what to do and when to do it and how to do it. Where should they go?
Okay. Quick and easy preparedness. That's where I
Mhm.
would start. It's 20 days,
Mhm.
15 minutes or less a day. So it's more of a challenge. And you can either just get that outright or it is in a membership as
Mhm.
well. Like for people who just want to knock it out, like if you knock it out, that's only 1 month of being in there if you
Okay.
follow the program. It's the easiest and quickest tasks that are going to have the largest impact on the most likely scenarios. I know that was a lot of words,
It made
but
sense.
it's the biggest bang for your buck, basically, as far as, they're small cost items, but really, really important things.
Okay. So the quick and easy preparedness challenge and then if they're in their membership, is that included or is that like
Yeah, there's
yeah.
different levels. So you
Okay.
can you
Check
can
out the
see it in there.
membership.
They can just do monthly access to that one challenge, or they can do like the premium membership where they have access to that and the 72-hour kit course and the
Got it.
food storage thing. So you can kind of decide like I just want to work on one thing at a time, or I want access to all of it because I want to start a few different topics here, or whatever.
Sure.
So there's different options in there. There's also an option of just a monthly workshop. So it's just one like 30-minute workshop on one topic and that's it. And there's a new one the next month. So for people
Got
who are
it.
more
Trying to
like that.
learn. Yeah.
hmm So yeah, there's really something for everybody in there. But I would
Yeah.
recommend if you want to make like real progress and not be completely crazy overwhelmed, quick and easy preparedness.
Okay. That's great. Well, Melanie, this was so helpful. We always like to end our interviews with the guest sharing one small way listeners can take action on what they learned today. Now, I know we covered so much and so many different places for them to start, but if there's just one small thing they could do today to be better prepared, what would that be?
Can I give you an option? Two options.
Sure.
One's
Give
free
us,
and one's to buy. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I want to
Let's do
do
that.
that. Get a flat of water,
Mm-hmm.
a case of water, put that on your grocery list or your Target list or Costco or whatever, and make a grab list.
Okay.
So one's free, one you just throw in your cart. $5.
Okay. I'm going to do both. We will also make sure we
Yay.
link to your Instagram so they can find you there and learn along and check out your membership in addition to the quick and easy preparedness challenge. Melanie, it's been such a joy to spend this time with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And I took you so much longer than I wasn't even looking at the I hope this episode gave you the hug and kick in the pants you need to grow. I'll now share the progress pointers. These are the notes I took so you don't have to. And those on my newsletter get them in a graphic form each week. You can sign up at aboutprogress.com/newsletter. Number 1. People put off emergency preparedness because they get overwhelmed, seeing it as all-consuming, requiring lots of money, space, and time, and worrying that they have to be prepared for everything. Number 2. If you often stop before you start with being prepared, choose even one emergency-related topic and the first step to get more prepared in that area. Number 3, remember that most emergencies are not life or death. Concentrate first on what will keep your household comfortable for an interim period until relief can come. More preparation can come with time. Number 4, categories of concern that should top most lists are evacuation, house fires, food storage, water, and power outages. Number 5, for each of these, here are small ways to gradually prepare. Make a grab list, ensure you have working smoke alarms, add a few items to short-term food storage each time you shop at the grocery. Get a flat of bottled water, put flashlights in each room, consider a thermometer for your fridge and freezer, and finally, find out where your water and gas valve shutoffs are. Your Do Something challenge for this week is to get a flat of water and make a grab list. To help you do that, we have linked in the show notes a special grab list brainstorm list for you that Melanie provided. So again, just go to the show notes and you'll get access to that list. This show is listener supported. Members of the Supporters Club get access to 3 levels of exclusive benefits, from more time to more content with me. My favorite benefit is more personal, my private, premium, always ad-free podcast where I get to lean into the personal side of personal development. We've had so many good conversations the past month, including an episode on GLP-1s with another part 2 coming, and some fun, lighthearted conversations with Taylor on pop culture and countertop appliances that we are loving lately. I would love to invite you to become a supporter by going to aboutprogress.com/support. And just know that the Supporters Club makes my work with About Progress free and available for all. You can always support the show for free by leaving a review, sharing it with a friend, and right now following on YouTube and watching there too if you're a video kind of person would be extremely helpful for the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Now go and do something with what you learned today. And check out your membership as well, in addition to I'm going to say it wrong again, quick and dirty, quick and practical, quick and easy, quick and, what is it called?
Quick
what?
and easy preparedness.
Oh, I did have it. Okay.
Quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty. Okay. Quick and easy preparedness challenge.